Welcome to this deep dive. We're cutting straight to the chase today, plunging right into the very first lines of a text that, well, has shaped thought for centuries.
It really has, and we're starting right at the beginning.
Exactly. Our source material is basically a set of notes and excerpts focused purely on the opening verse, Dharma-kshetre Kuru-kshetre.
Getting right to that foundational brick, as you said.
Yeah. And our mission really is to unpack this single verse using our source, to see what it establishes right away.
About the setting, the players, the whole situation just before things kick off.
So let's set the scene based on what our source tells us. We're told we are at a place called Kurukshetra, and there are two huge forces gathered there.
Right. And what immediately strikes you, looking at the source's notes on this, is how Kurukshetra is introduced.
Okay. How so?
It's not just, here's the location.
Yeah.
The source makes a point that the verse explicitly calls it Dharma-kshetre.
Dharma-kshetre, okay. And the source explains what that means.
It does. The analysis is very clear. It translates it directly as a holy place.
A holy place. Wow. Okay, so right off the bat, the battlefield is called a holy place.
Exactly. And that designation, right in the first line, it just layers so much meaning onto the location from the absolute start.
That seems significant. Why emphasize that holiness right when armies are gathering for war?
Well, that's the key point the source seems to imply, isn't it? It creates this immediate, inherent tension.
A holy place versus a battlefield.
Precisely. It suggests, maybe, that whatever happens next, the conflict itself, might be judged differently. Or that the stakes aren't just about land or power.
But maybe moral, spiritual even.
Could be. The source focusing on this term first tells you this isn't just some random field where armies decided to meet. It has significance.
Okay, so the location itself, Kurukshetra, this Dharma-kshetre, this holy place, it's charged with meaning from the get-go, according to the source.
Definitely.
So who are the groups? Who has assembled on this significant ground?
The source material is quite direct about that. It names the two main groups.
Which are?
Dhritarashtra's sons and Pandu's sons.
Right. And the source mentions that the speaker, the one asking the question in this verse, is Dhritarashtra himself.
Yes, that's right.
And he specifically calls the first group, my sons. The source gives the Sanskrit too, mamako.
Mamako, yes. And the source notes this. While we often know them broadly as the Kauravas and the Pandavas,
as Dhritarashtra's sons and Pandu's sons,
the verse uses that really direct, familial language right away. Mamako and Panfraskaiva, my sons and Pandu's sons.
Why does the source emphasize that specific phrasing, my sons versus Pandu's sons?
Well, think about what that does. It immediately frames the whole thing not just as, say, a political dispute or armies clashing.
It's something personal.
Exactly. Deeply personal, familial.
Yeah.
It's a division within a family. The source emphasizes this specific identification, you see, to show that intimate yet broken relationship right at the heart of it all.
So it underscores that this isn't about strangers fighting, it's kin against kin.
Right from the first line, on this holy ground. The source highlights this because that personal tragedy is just woven into the whole fabric of the conflict.
Okay, so we've got the location, Dharma-kshetre, the holy place. We've got the players identified with this stark family division, Dhritarashtra's sons, Pandu's sons, Kauravas, Pandavas. Now, how does the source describe their state? How did they actually arrive there? How did they assemble?
Yes. The source uses a very, very powerful phrase here. It says, they assembled with great enthusiasm for battle.
Great enthusiasm, not reluctance or duty.
No, great enthusiasm. And the source analysis really points out why this wording is so important.
Is there a specific term for that?
There is. The Sanskrit term, which our source highlights, is yujutsava.
Yutsava.
And the source confirms, yes, this translates to with great enthusiasm for battle. Or you could even say desiring to fight.
Wow, so they weren't dragged there.
Not at all. The source emphasizes that this whole phrase, samavita yujutsava, symboled, and desiring to fight signifies much more than just, gathering.
It's a state of mind.
Yes, a state of being ready, eager, just filled with this intense desire for the conflict. It highlights their mental and physical readiness.
An intense desire.
Yeah.
That really adds another layer, doesn't it? You're on holy ground, you're facing your cousins, your family. And the description right there in verse 1 is that you have great enthusiasm for the fight ahead.
It's striking.
So what does the source's focus on this specific term, yutsava, really tell us about the mood or the the forces driving this whole thing from the perspective presented.
Well, this is where the source's emphasis on yuyutsava becomes really insightful, I think.
How so?
It suggests this deep-seated resolve, right?
Wow.
And almost burning eagerness that goes way beyond just duty or necessity.
Like they want it.
Exactly. The source implies this intense desire isn't passive. It's an active drive towards the conflict. It tells us, from the source's viewpoint, that the participants showed up wanting this battle.
Despite the holy setting, despite facing their own relatives.
Yes, and this detail, which the source makes sure to highlight, it just underscores the gravity, maybe even the perceived inevitability of it all.
So it's a gathering fueled by a passion for combat, not just like strategy.
That seems to be the implication the source draws out. Its choice to translate and really emphasize yuyutsava right at the start signals this intense energy, this fixed determination that defines the whole moment before the epic truly begins.
Okay. So we've got the holy setting, the familial opponents, their intense eagerness. It's all packed into this opening line.
Mm-hmm.
And then the verse ends with a question. The source tells us this comes from Dhritarashtra, right? He's addressing Sanjaya.
That's correct. Sanjaya has been granted divine sight to narrate the battle to the blind king, Dhritarashtra.
And what is that crucial first question? The one that kicks off the entire narrative according to our source.
The core question, as the source presents it, is Dhritarashtra asking Sanjaya this. After assembling with great enthusiasm for battle at the holy place of Kurukshetra, Dharma-kshetre, what did my sons and the sons of Pandu do?
Right. He sets the whole scene, the place, the people, their eagerness, and then just asks, well, the source gives the Sanskrit, Kim Akarvata.
Kim Akarvata, yes.
Which means?
What did they do? Simple as that.
What did they do? So after all that setup, what happened next?
And as the source points out, that quotient is basically the starting gun for the whole narrative.
The prompt.
Exactly. It's the blind king's curiosity, specifically about what happened after this really charged assembly took place, that prompts Sanjaya's whole detailed account. The rest of the text essentially unfolds as the answer to that question.
So what does the source's analysis suggest this question reveals about Dhritarashtra, or maybe the text's initial focus?
Well, the source implies his question isn't really one of surprise. He's not asking if they assembled or even if they will fight. He seems to accept that.
He knows they're there, ready to go.
Yes. His question is specifically about their actions. What did they do after getting together like that, so eager?
Okay.
And the source focuses on this to show that the text immediately pivots to the unfolding events. It's driven by this initial query about action. It sets a tone of immediacy, doesn't it? Centering the whole narrative on what happened next, fueled by that intense desire he just described.
Right. Okay, let's try and pull these threads together for you listening right now. Why does spending this time on just one verse, using source one as our guide, actually matter so much? What does it give you straight away?
Well, focusing just on this opening verse, through the lens of our source, it provides this incredibly efficient, really layered foundation. It's like a microcosm of the whole situation.
How so?
It tells you the where isn't just a place, it's sacred Dharma-kshetre.
Right, the holy place.
The who is defined by these deep, fractured family ties, Dhritarashtra's sons versus Pandu's sons.
My sons, his sons.
Exactly. The how they got there wasn't passive. It was with this intense, active desire, yuyutsava.
That eagerness for battle.
And the why, we're about to hear the whole story, is this direct question from a king who's blind but deeply concerned, curious about their immediate actions. Kim Akarvata.
What do they do?
So the source highlights these specific elements to just plunge you right into the core dynamics from the first breath.
Precisely. It's signaling this isn't just going to be a chronicle of a battle. It's a conflict set on holy ground involving family, driven by intense will, and the whole narration is framed by this specific question about what actions were taken.
And that contrast, the source points out, it really is thought-provoking, isn't it? You have this sacred space, Dharma-kshetre, the holy place, and the forces gathered there are bursting with great enthusiasm for battle, yuyutsava. Exactly. The source's emphasis on that juxtaposition, right from line 1, feels crucial. A holy place, normally for, righteousness, pilgrimage, spiritual acts.
Becomes the stage for war.
Yes, and the actors are driven by this intense desire for that very conflict. So what does that fundamental setup, highlighted by the source, suggest to you about the nature of what's about to unfold?
That's the big question, isn't it?
It really is. Is it meant to be a battle for righteousness happening on holy ground? Is the holiness of the place supposed to I don't know, influence or judge the actions that happen there.
Or does the sheer intensity of the human desire for conflict just overshadow the sanctity of the place?
The source sets up that tension immediately. It hints that this battle won't just be physical. It's going to be a test of dharma, of righteousness itself, playing out in the very field named for it.
So it compels you, the listener, the reader, to think about the moral and spiritual dimensions right from the start.
Absolutely. Recognizing that the actions taken in the sacred space, driven by such intense desire, are going to carry enormous weight.
Wow. That really does leave you with a lot to ponder, doesn't it? Just from that first line, framed by our source's insight.
The convergence of the holy and the warlike.
Yeah, that specific pairing. What does it tell us about the complex path this whole narrative is about to take? It's quite a starting point.
It certainly is.
Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into just the opening verse of Dharma-kshetre Yudam. We really hope that exploring this initial setup, guided by our source, has kind of illuminated just how much information, how much thematic richness is packed into the very first moments.
It's incredibly dense.
It is. So reflect on that powerful tension established right at the beginning, that juxtaposition we discussed, and maybe think about what it might foreshadow for the incredible journey that lies ahead in the text.